Check this out. BCM Raider here, bringing you another Commander deck tech. Today we're looking at Captain Sisay. This is a Legendary Matters deck. So, majority of everything we're going to be doing is Legendary. But Captain Sisay herself, she has a activated ability. We can search our library for a legend or legendary card. And we get to put that card into our hand. So, let's get right into it. First up are all the legendary creatures. So we have Alesh Norn Grand Cenobite. She's the original Phyrexian Praetor. Your creatures are going to get +2/+2, and creatures your opponents control are going to get -2/-2. Now we have God Eternal Oketra. She's a 3/6 with double strike. Whenever we cast a creature spell, we're going to create a 4/4 black zombie warrior with vigilance. Okay, now we have Boromir, Warden of the Tower. This is a 3/3 with vigilance. Whenever a opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. You can also sacrifice Boromir, and creatures we control will gain indestructible, and the ring tempts you. Now we have Linvala, Keeper of Silence. She's a 3/4 with flying. Activated abilities of creatures your opponents control can't be activated. Now we have 8.5 Tails. This card is going to allow us to gain protection from the color white just by paying 2 mana, but we can turn any spell or permanent white. Now we have Shalai, Voice of Plenty. It's a 3/4 with flying. You, planeswalkers you control, and other creatures will have hexproof. But also, we can pay 6 mana, and we can put a +1 counter on each creature we control. Now we have Gandalf the White. He's a 4/5 with flash, so you can cast Gandalf at instant speed. We can also cast legendary spells or artifact spells as though they had flash. But if a legendary permanent or artifact entering or leaving the battlefield causes a triggered ability, that trigger will trigger a additional time. Now we have Adeline, Resplendent Cathar. She's a star 4 with vigilance. Her power is equal to the number of creatures we control. And whenever you attack, for each opponent, we're going to create a 1/1 white human token that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control. Okay, now we have Thalia, Heretic Cathar. This is a very powerful legendary creature. Besides being a 3/2 with first strike, creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control are going to enter the battlefield tapped. Now we have Loran of the Third Path. She's a 2/1 with vigilance. When she enters the battlefield, we can destroy a target artifact or enchantment. If you're feeling generous, you and another opponent can draw a card. Now we have Kataki, War's Wage. This is a 2/1 spirit creature, and it will give every single artifact that's on the battlefield at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice that artifact unless they pay 1. Now we have Brimaz, King of Oreskos. This is a very powerful creature. It's a 3/4 with vigilance. Whenever Brimaz attacks, we get a 1/1 cat soldier that's attacking. Also, we're going to get one whenever Brimaz blocks. Okay, now we have Questing Beast. Questing Beast is such a disgusting magic card. It's a 4/4 with vigilance, death touch, and haste. It can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Combat damage that would be dealt by creatures we control can't be prevented. But whenever Questing Beast deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to target planeswalker that player controls. Now we have Kogla, the Titan Ape, also known as King Kong. But when Kogla enters the battlefield, it will fight one target creature we don't control. Whenever Kogla attacks, we get to destroy a artifact or enchantment that player controls. You can protect Kogla by paying 2 and returning another human back to our hand. Now we have Ojir Kaslim, Deepest Growth. This is a legendary god creature. It's a 6/5 with trample. Whenever Ojir Kaslim deals combat damage to a player, we're going to reveal that many cards from the top of our library. Then we can put a creature card or land from among those onto the battlefield. But if Ojir Kaslim would go to the graveyard, we get to return it back to the battlefield tapped and transformed. And it will transform into Temple of Cultivation. This will tap for green mana, and then we can pay 3, and we can flip the Temple of Cultivation back over. Now we have Pelucranos Reborn. This is a 4/5 with reach that has a activated ability to transform this. Pelucranos Engine of Ruin. This is very similar to Wormcoil Engine, except this is a Phyrexian Hydra, so it'll be a 6/6 with reach and lifelink. And whenever Pelucranos Engine of Ruin or another non-token Hydra goes to the graveyard, we're going to create a 3/3 white Phyrexian Hydra with reach and a 3/3 green and white Phyrexian Hydra with lifelink. Okay, now we have Kolvori, God of Kinship. As long as we control 3 or more legendary creatures, Kolvori is going to get +4/+2, so it will become a 6/6 with Vigilance. For a colorless and a green, we can activate her to look at the top 6 cards of our library and put any legendary creature from among those into our hand. But she's also another thing. She is the Ringheart Crest. This is a legendary artifact. When it enters the battlefield, we choose a creature type, and we can add a green mana, but we can only spend this to cast a creature spell of the chosen type or a legendary. But generally, it's here for her main side. Okay, now we have Kodama of the East Tree. This is kind of a strangely worded card, but it is a 6/6 with reach. But whenever another permanent enters the battlefield, if it wasn't put there by Kodama's ability, then we can put a permanent card with equal or lesser value from our hand onto the battlefield. Okay, now we have Reki, the History of Kamigawa. Whenever we play a legendary, we get to draw a card. Now we have Galta and Maverin. This is a very large creature. This is a 12/12 for 7 mana. Whenever we attack, we can choose either to create a very large token with trample or a bunch of little tokens that have lifelink. Now we have Kutzil, Malamet Exemplar. Our opponents won't be able to cast spells during our turn, so that's going to be very beneficial for us. But whenever one or more creatures we control with power greater than its base power that deals combat damage, we get to draw a card. Now we have Karametra, God of Harps. This is a 6/7 indestructible god. That's also a enchantment. But as long as your devotion to green and white is less than 7, Karametra is not a creature. But whenever you cast a creature spell, you may search your library for a forest or plains card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Now we have Sigarda, Host of Herons. She's a 5/5 flying hexproof angel, but spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause you to sacrifice permanents. Now we have Gaddock Teague. Non-creature spells with converted mana cost 4 or greater cannot be played, and non-creature spells with X in their cost can't be played either. Now we have Dragonlord Dramoka. This is a very large 5/7 flyer with lifelink. It can't be countered, and your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. Okay, now we have Safi Eriksdotter. We're gonna sacrifice Safi, and when we do, we're gonna return a creature back to the battlefield that was put there this turn. Sort of like a instant speed reanimation. Okay, now we have a couple non-legendary cards. Of course, we have Delighted Halfling. Now we have Karmic Guide. We're going to use Karmic Guide to get back any creature from our graveyard back to the battlefield. Okay, now we have Sun Titan. When Sun Titan enters the battlefield or attacks, we're going to return a permanent card from our graveyard with mana cost 3 or less back to the battlefield. Okay, that was all the creatures. Now we have 3 enchantments. So first up is the legendary Flowering of the White Tree. Our legendary creatures are going to get +2/+1 and have Ward 1. And our non-legendary creatures will get +1/+1. Now we have Aura Shards. This is going to trigger whenever any creature enters the battlefield under our control. We're going to destroy a artifact or enchantment. Now we have Mirari's Wake. This is a very powerful one. All our creatures are going to get +1/+1. And whenever we tap a land for mana, it's going to add a additional mana of that color. Now we have some Planeswalkers. First up is Elspeth Sun's Champion. We're going to plus her and get 3 white soldier tokens. Or we can destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater. But if we get to her emblem, all our creatures are going to get +2/+2 with flying. Now we have a Johnny Steadfast. Until end of turn, up to 1 target creature will get +1/+1 First Strike, Vigilance, and Lifelink. Or we can -2, put a +1 counter on each creature we control, and a loyalty counter on each Planeswalker we control. Now we have Garrick, Caller of Beasts. We're going to reveal the top 5 cards of our library and put all creature cards revealed this way into our hand. We can -3 him to put a green creature from our hand on the battlefield. When we -7 him, we're going to get an emblem. Whenever we cast a creature spell, we can search our library for a creature card and put that onto the battlefield. Now we have Vivian, Champion of the Wilds. We can cast creature spells as though they had flash. We can plus her, and until our next turn, up to 1 target creature gains Vigilance and Reach. Now we have Ugin the Spirit Dragon. This guy is very powerful. Lightning bolts something every single turn. Or you can exile any number of permanents that's 1 or more colors. And if you -10 him, you're pretty much sitting pretty, because you're going to gain 7, draw 7 cards, and put 7 permanents on the battlefield. Now we have a Johnny Unyielding. This one's pretty cool. We're going to +2 him, reveal the top 3 cards of our library, put all non-land permanents revealed this way into our hand, or we can -2. It's basically a Swords to Plowshares. And -9, we can put 5 +1 counters on each creature we control, and 5 loyalty counters on each other Planeswalker. Let's get into the artifacts. First up is Stone of Eric. If a creature a opponent controls would go to the graveyard, it's going to get exiled. Or we can pay 2, activate this, exile every single card in their graveyard, and draw a card. Now we have a very powerful legendary equipment with Sting, the Glinting Dagger. The equipped creature will get +1/+1 in haste, and at the beginning of each combat, we're going to untap that creature. Now we have Mirror of Galadriel. We're going to pay 5, scry 1, then draw a card. but this ability will cost 1 colorless less for each legendary we control. So the more legendaries we control, we could basically get this down to 0 mana and just tap this, scry 1, and draw. Now we have Chimmel, the Inner Sun. This is a very powerful artifact. Spells you control can't be countered. Period. And at the beginning of each end step, we're going to discover 5. That's basically like newer Cascade. Now we have Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Relic of Legends, Swiftfoot Boots, and Lightning Greaves. Okay, let's get into the instants. Most of these are just kind of removal spells, but we do have some protection with Heroic Intervention. We have Reprieve. Reprieve, I feel, is slightly better than Mana Tithe. Now we have Beast Within to deal with whatever permanent we want. Now we have Path's Exile, Swords the Plowshares, and we have Crossing Grip. Crossing Grip, I feel, is very underplayed. Okay, let's get into the sorceries. First up is Kamal's Druidic Vow. We're going to look at the top X cards of our library and put any number of land or legendary permanents onto the battlefield. Okay, now we have Urza's Ruinous Blast. We're going to exile all non-land, non-legendary permanents. Now we have Kadama's Reach, Cultivate, Rampant Growth, Farseek, Nature's Lore. Because we're going to need as much mana as possible. Okay, now we have Time of Need. We're going to search our library for a legendary creature and put it into our hand. Now we have Harmonize, where we can just draw 3 cards. Now we have The Ring Goes South. The ring is going to tempt us, and then we're going to reveal cards from the top of our library until we reveal X land cards, where X is the number of legendary creatures we control. Now we have Farewell, in case we just need to exile literally everything. Okay, let's get into the land base. First up is Okina, Temple to the Grandfathers. This will add a green mana, but we can pay 1 green, and target legendary will get +1/+1. Okay, now we have the Shire. This will enter tapped unless we control a legendary creature, but that's not a problem. Pay 2 mana and tap an untapped creature we control, and we're going to create a food token. Now we have Minas Tirith. This will enter tapped unless we control a legendary creature, but we're going to pay 2 and draw a card, but only if we attacked with 2 or more creatures this turn. Now we have Core Haven. We're going to activate this and prevent all combat damage that would be dealt by target attacking creature. Now we have Iganjo Castle. We're going to pay 1 white and prevent the next 2 damage that would be dealt to any legendary creature. Now we have Flagstones of Trorkir. This will tap for a white, but if Flagstones would be put into a graveyard, we can search for a Plains card and put that on the battlefield tapped. Now we have the Grey Havens. When the Grey Havens enters, we're going to scry 1, and we're going to add 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures that are in our graveyard. Now we have Mikakoro, Center of the Sea. Basically, we're going to pay 2, and everybody gets the draw card. We have Command Tower, Windswept Heath, Temple Garden, Canopy Vista, Bountiful Promenade, Sun Petal Grove, Wooded Bastion, Fortified Village, Branchloft Pathway, Monumental Hinge. This is going to be very good because for 4 mana, we're going to look at the top 5 cards, and we can put a historic card from among them into our hand. Now we have Great Hall of the Citadel. We're going to pay 1 colorless and get 2 mana of any combination of mana that we need to cast our legendary spells. Now we have Plaza of Heroes. This will add whatever color mana we need, but more importantly, we can exile Plaza of Heroes, and target legendary will gain hexproof and indestructible until the end of turn. Now we have Gavany Township. We are running 8 forests and 6 plains. And that was the Commander deck tech for Captain Sisay. I really hope you guys enjoyed this deck tech. Overall, this is a very fun Legends deck. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow me on TikTok, share these videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.